Ho, ho, ho! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Florida's #1 hockey podcast, the Cats and Bolts. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, my. Merry Christmas, everybody. Ho, ho, ho. Nice work, Benny boy. Ben, before you go any further, you'll see I sent you a photo. It's probably coming up on your computer.
Yes, I see it, yeah.
We'll save that, and we'll get to that a little later in the show. Welcome, everybody, to the Christmas edition of the Cats and Bolts podcast. As Ben Castro, the producer, said, it is our Christmas edition. Rod Peterson here, co-host Sarina Taylor there. Merry Christmas, Sarina.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Good.
Good. Are you in the holiday spirit?
Always.
What's so funny over there? Huh?
Yeah, Ben, what's the...
Sorry, just the holiday spirit. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. This is as Christmassy as I can get today, and that red and green, and that's hers. Merry Christmas.
Part of the holidays are the World Juniors, so...
Yes. By the way, we're broadcasting, as if you didn't know, from Podcast Junkie Studios in downtown beautiful Boca Raton, Florida. And if you are looking to start a podcast in 2025, this is the place to go, right, Ben?
It is. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that.
You bet. And mention our name. They'll give you a good seat in the bathroom here at Podcast Junkies.
I forgot to
thank
laugh.
you. We're brought to you by Beach House, Pompano, and Boresco. When we have live guests here in the studio, they get gift cards from Boresco, which we just were there on the weekend. Thank you so much, Thad. It's so good.
We got to take Benny Boy one of these days.
Well, we've asked him a million times. But.
We went and hooked up with Thad, our guy, hung out with him, just had lunch with him. He literally served us by sitting next to me at the table, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
The food is so good there, Ben. You have to come.
The freshest tacos with a lush jungle vibe. Boresco, North Pompano Beach Boulevard, and right across the street, of course, is Beach House Pompano, where Ben talked about taking this other podcast on the road. So would you consider doing it at the Beach House sometime?
I would definitely consider doing that.
Okay,
Definitely.
And before we get down to business and quit Mickey Mouse in here, we did ask some guests to come in. Ed Jovanovski, busy. Doug McLean picking up his kids at the airport, which he's like, Rod, you always pick the worst times. Doug McLean. I'm like, it's the same time every week, Mac.
Doug, tell your children to pick different times to fly in so you can randomly come on our show.
Yeah. And of course, Billy Lindsay, they're doing their thing. He was not available this weekend. It crushed him because he actually did our Christmas episode last year, if you remember. So it's just you and me, kid. I take it as a sign from God that the universe and you people just want me and her kicking around hockey topics. So let's go. I put it out there. I asked the viewers, do you have any questions for us here on the Christmas edition of the Cats and Bolts podcast? And you'll never guess who the very first person was that responded. Bure 1096.
I'll never guess that was going to be actually my first guess.
Yeah, Nick is behind the scenes is Nick with an H. Bure 1096 says, Merry Christmas, you two. He says, what are you looking forward to the most in 2025? And hockey related. And as I sit here, I should have sprung that on you because I haven't really thought about it too much. What are we looking forward to?
You just did spring that on me.
That's what I mean. I mean, I knew the question was coming, but I haven't put much thought into it. I would say probably the Four Nations face-off, and I would say also probably a long playoff run by the Panthers and maybe even the Lightning. So the typical things. I mean, there's lots to look forward to around here in 2025.
Yeah, as far as hockey stuff, what am I looking forward to? Just hopefully some good hockey. I don't really know what's going to happen. I had no idea. If somebody had a gun to my head, I couldn't pick the top 4 teams, and I'd be like, that team is going to win the Stanley Cup. I have no idea. But what we're looking for kicking right off into 2025 is obviously the World Juniors. That is my favorite time of year. That's always a thing I watch for. The Four Nations Cup will be good as well. I don't think it's not an international tournament that I'm super jazzed about like I sometimes am. I think we're just going to kind of go through the motions and watch it. I'll be excited to watch, but it's just I don't have a lot invested into it at this point.
Yeah, well, you know what? Certain people are into it and a lot of people are not. But the World Junior Tournament, she's oddly enough way more into it than I am, and I have broadcasted in the past. You know, when I was working in it, I was far more in it. We were at it 2 years ago in Edmonton, but I feel like that's just to me, that's an appetizer to the Four Nations face-off. That's just the way I see it. But maybe you have that backwards. Do you see the World Jays as a bigger deal?
always, because it's there every year. It's just, I don't associate one with the other. It's completely different things, but it's something that Canadians look forward to every single year. It ties in with Christmas, ties in with the holidays. We would get our asses out of bed. It was freezing outside on Boxing Day, and we would get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to watch Canada beat somebody 15-0, and we were all just loving it. It was just something every Canadian just is such a big part of. And when you think about the players that make the World Junior team, that is such a there's a rare window of time that a player is actually eligible for the World Junior team, let alone, they're competing against a lot of other really talented Canadian players. Then you have some players that are eligible to play that are in the NHL that their teams don't let them go. So it's always an interesting dynamic on what's going to happen on the team each year. But I just love waiting for the juniors.
And by the way, 2025 was the question, and that's not that. She's talking Christmas holidays. It won't even be 2025 yet. When they play the gold medal games, it will be.
Well, that's why. Yeah, I mean that's why it's called the 2025 World Juniors.
Yeah, but. No Connor Bedard, he's eligible, but he's playing up in Chicago. No Macklin Celebrini, he's eligible, but he's playing in San Jose. That's put a little bit of a damper on it for me. So that's the answer. She said good hockey. Is that good enough?
What's wild to think is that Connor Bedard is still eligible to play in the World Juniors. Connor McDavid went through the same thing. He could have played in the World Juniors, but Canada goes through that every year. There's guys that could play that are playing in the NHL. It's just the way it goes.
And I'm sure the U.S. has a few, too. By the way, before we move on to the next question, you'll notice a new set design. I was in Walmart picking up some stuff, and this little sucker was sitting in the aisle. Like some kid had picked it up and then left it there. Like his mom said, put that down, right? Just sitting there. I picked it up, took it home, put it just inside the door of our bedroom. I was trying to scare her. The girl that notices everything walked right by it and missed it. So I had to stop and say, hey, Sarina, what's that thing right around the door there? Knowing that this was just peeking around the corner. It didn't scare her.
So for the record, all I could really see was like the end of the little tail. And down here, we have those little things that fall off the trees that are like kind of curly. And that's what it looked like. And I was like, I don't know. It's just a little. And then when I realized it was sitting there like that, had I walked out and put my eyes on this thing, he would not be here today. I would have murdered him if I saw this sitting in the bedroom by the door and not knowing that it was fake.
Personally, I thought it was kind of funny.
Look at its legs. It's all ready here.
She said if you had done this with a snake, we're done.
Yeah, I'd kill him.
So,
yeah.
I tried.
His reply was, but I didn't. I'm warning you in advance. You think you're going to get sassy with this rubber rat?
Yeah.
Ain't no way.
Ben, can we come up with a name for the rat? Think about it for the next little while, and maybe we'll put that out to the viewers as well. What's the name of the rat?
Martin E. Rat. What's the mascot
Victor
here?
E.
Victor
Rat.
E. Rat. Yeah, we always think it's Martin E. Rat.
Yeah, I know a lot of rats in this business that could have a name. Anyways.
We'll leave it here for Skinny Merlino when he does his podcast because he always talks about rats.
Scare the shit out of that guy.
That's not a good idea.
Do you want to scare a mob boss? Not today.
G-Tron with the next question says, what's your opinion on the Panthers? Do they have a good chance to repeat? And I'll be honest with you, I love the Panthers fans, but I'm not going to get into this back and forth with the fans. I enjoy the engagement. We do it here with this show. But here's the thing. And I don't think it's a whole lot different than certainly Lightning fans or even Oilers fans. They might be worse. But it's like when the Panthers win, especially if they win 2-3 in a row. Greatest team ever. We're going to the Cup. Told you we're great. Lose 1, lose 2 and get shut out. Trade this guy, cut that guy. They're shitty. This is embarrassing. And to me, that's exhausting. It's too much of a waste of energy. I see people enjoy the trolling back and forth of the fan bases. I don't. I lived that world. That's an unwinnable thing. So the Panthers have a very good team. They came into the week with 40 points, tied atop the Atlantic Division. They're a top 10 team in the NHL. They're a good team. We're going to get into later on here what they might need the rest of the way come trade deadline, but we're months away from the trade deadline. So what's my opinion on their season? They're first place, bro. They're a cup contender. They're going to be there in the end. That's what I think. But I don't get into the ups and downs. And your team's the Oilers. I don't really see it affecting your mood until playoff time.
affecting my mood in regards to...
If the Oilers lose like they did to the Panthers on Monday night, you didn't really... Either you were hiding it.
Oh, I was fucking pissed off. Because what is the thing that came out of my mouth? I literally said to Rod, I go, oh, he gets up, he goes, oh, what's in the news today? I go, oh, Florida beat Edmonton last night. Edmonton blew a 3-goal lead in the third period, or Florida scored 3 goals to win in the third period. I go, Florida does what they do. They suck bags until the third period, and then they do something, and Edmonton gets up and they blow every lead they have. So if anybody expected anything else to happen in that game, they're crazy. I was not surprised. But as an Oilers fan, we are all, it's years and years of that happening. And it's like, yep, not surprised. Either let it really piss me off because it does, or I just go, whatever. It's going to happen again.
Yeah. So I'd like to think there's a little bit of growth there. It certainly didn't affect my life. We barely even talked about it. But to summarize what she's saying, the Oilers blew it, and Comeback Cats happened Monday night on Amazon Prime. You said that's on brand for both teams. But I want to explain something for those that don't know. Some of you will, and a lot won't. When they were shut out in back-to-back games on this road trip in Vancouver and Calgary, Paul Maurice said, I'm not worried about the offense. And this is in my column in the South Florida Tribune if you want to go back and look at it. Just explaining what he's like. What do you mean? You didn't score any goals in 2 games. How can you not be concerned? No. That's what people would be thinking. They gave the puck away 19 times in the Vancouver game. 19 times. The Panthers kind of had their head up their ass. Pomo knows that. So he basically said it's hard. It's almost impossible to defend when you give the puck away. So what he's saying is when we have it, I don't worry that we're going to score. We got to stop giving it away 19 times. Yeah, that's the problem.
He's basically saying, I trust our offense.
Yes.
The biggest problem was our defense in that game. We've seen, I think, more this year than last year. I've seen the Panthers be 2 completely different teams. It's like sometimes we watch the games and I'm like, what? Like when Colorado was here, it was straight up embarrassing. Mm-hmm. And Colorado was unbelievable, but then I'm not saying the Panthers would play like that against them every single game, but they come out, you don't know what you're going to get with them. And a lot of people at the start of this year, even more specifically, were like, what happened to Tkachuk? Like literally what happened to him? And then all of a sudden he turns it around. You can't be hot and cold like that and expect to win. But what Paul Maurice is saying is, hey, baby steps here. This is the issue. Don't come at me or come at our guys who are putting the puck in the net when it's okay. So we didn't score in a couple games. The world is not coming to an end. It doesn't mean our defense sucks. It just means we didn't score. Period. Let's relax.
Yeah, he says we can't give the puck away. And then all of a sudden, in the next game in Edmonton, they win 6-5. They score 6 goals. So they literally, the hot and cold thing she's talking about isn't good, but this isn't springtime. This is regular season, and you're not going to play 10 out of 10 all year.
Not 100%.
Right.
Nobody does.
Okay. Moving on. Maddie. We love you, Maddie. You're such a great gal. She says, what's your predictions for the Florida-Tampa Bay games? I love how people are already looking ahead in the schedule because I wear this wristband that says 1 day at a time. That's how I live. It works for me. I think it drives her nuts. And I get that. I didn't look at the schedule. I'm like, oh, they have a home and home coming up. Sunday, Monday. That's exciting as hell. Sunday in Amalie, in Tampa Bay, Panthers and Bolts, Cats and Bolts. Back here Monday at American Bank Arena. What's my prediction? Gonna go out on a limb. Hate to disappoint you or be a spoiler, but I think they're gonna split. And the home team will win each time. That's my prediction.
Ooh, I don't know. Here's what I will say. Depending on what the Panthers do, I think on Friday night, that's what's going to be a telltale sign. Again, they're coming out this way one game, this way another game. There hasn't been a pattern that we've been like, oh, the Panthers have historically played well in this situation. Not as of late. They're hot against the Lightning. They're cold against the Lightning. I don't know. I honestly don't know. It'd probably be a split. You're playing 3 games in 4 days to get it all taken care of before a few days off for Christmas. That's a lot of games. It's not too much travel, but it is a lot of games.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's my prediction is a split. She's hedging her bet, which is fine. There's no wrong answer to this until after they play the games, of course. But I'll tell you what. It's so much fun when the 2 teams play. I understand it's not Red Sox, Yankees, Canadians, Leafs, Flames, Oilers, but it's still special when the Cats and the Bolts get together, no matter where it is. And I like those roadies over to Tampa as well. Love Hat Tricks Sports Bar, by the way. Some of the best wings I've ever had. That's the prediction. So Jesse writes in, spoiler alert or disclaimer, she might vomit at the table when I say this. Jesse says, will Rhino get his jersey retired? Basically, the comment was Rhino already has his jersey retired by the Panthers, talking about Sam Reinhart.
Oh, my God. Guys, stop talking about jersey retirements until after the player is fucking done playing. Literally. What are you going to do if Sam Reinhart turns around tomorrow and says, I hate this place, I want to trade, get me out of here? Are you still going to be fucking rallying for his number to be hanging from the rafters? Which, by the way, this is the first year they're actually in order in the banners up there, but I digress. Why are we talking about this? It's not, Jesse, come on, man. This is literally why are people like that here? Why? I can't even, dude, Sam Reinhart pales in comparison to what other people have done for their franchise. He had 1.5 good seasons and people are talking about retiring his number. Guys, please stop with that. I'm from Canada where everybody's psycho obsessed and I've never heard one person say, I wonder if when is McDavid going to get his number retired? What? No.
Yeah, well, I think you're being a little hard on Jesse. And number two, I think Jesse's a chick, just to be honest. For one. 3, we don't agree on the Sam Reinhart thing, which timing-wise, this is actually a good point because we're going to talk about his former team, the Buffalo Sabres, in a second. But to give you an idea how obsessed, I spent a lot of time in Calgary the last few years. And when Matthew Tkachuk was still there, they didn't have a captain on the Flames. You know the story. I was listening to Sports Talk Radio driving around, and the Flames were having a really good regular season. And a caller called in, or was it the hosts? Doesn't matter. Somebody said on the sports talk show, when the Flames won the Stanley Cup, who's Gary Bettman going to hand the cup to? We don't have a captain. I almost drove off the road. Now, that's a Calgary thing, but they could say idiotic things in Edmonton, too. So I guess the point is, all we're saying is getting ahead of yourself is a thing. So Sam Reinhart may not finish his career here. He's on a good track, though. That's for sure. Calgary
literally has professionalized saying stupid things. Literally. I've never seen, there's definitely Vancouver's pretty bad too. Vancouver's bad for getting ahead of themselves when they were planning the Stanley Cup parade the year that they played Boston after game 5. Yeah, don't do that. But like Sam Reinhart, come on. He's not even your best player. Relax.
No, but he is up there. Like, to be honest, I'm a Reinhart fan. I'm not obsessed like everybody around here is with him, and clearly she's not. But he did score the Stanley Cup clinching goal. And it's being aired on a loop in the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. That's not a small thing.
Hold on. This has nothing to do. Sam Reinhart is a great goal scorer. He's not a great all-around hockey player.
No,
he's
but
a goal scorer.
What he does.
So what?
It's what he gets paid for.
But as far as he's not the best player on the team. And it's like, I literally don't even know who the fuck would think like that. Like, I'm sorry if you're offended by that, Jesse, but I can't even wrap my head. And people wonder why I get bitter and angry at Panthers fans because of questions like that. I don't even think about that stuff.
Right. Well, if anybody's going to get their jersey retired, which eventually somebody's going to have to, the only current jersey that is retired is Luongo. So that's kind of sad. They need to get some more up there. But there's none that are currently former Panthers. It'll be Alexander Barkov. End of story. Leader in points, games played, captain of the Stanley Cup winning team.
But I guarantee, to put in that argument, if you would have asked 4 years ago, when's Huberdeau's jersey going to be retired? People would have been on that bandwagon. Yeah. Now, can you imagine retiring Huberdeau's jersey? Guys, you don't know what's going to happen.
For sure. At that time, there was no other choices either. Now there's actually some, which reminds me, all these beautiful bobbleheads that I love so much. Can you tell that I'm a bobblehead guy? Bob will be the next. Bob had better be the next one. Let's put it that way.
Next bobblehead?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
The
we
Bob
never see
bobblehead.
Goalies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump out of order for a second. I have a few other things. It's actually flying by today. Hope you're enjoying this holiday edition of the Cats and Bolts podcast. Before we talk about some of the other league things, I do want to talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning because as we sit here and record this, they're on a 3-game win streak. They got the Blues in there this week and then the home and home against the Panthers. They've won 6 of 7. They're fairly comfortably in a playoff spot. probably doesn't come as a surprise to you? Or how are you on the fact that they've stabilized? Because they were really up and down in the first third of the season.
I'm not surprised at all. I'm probably more surprised with the different Panthers teams that we've seen this year than I am with the Lightning. I feel like the Lightning are doing exactly what I expected them to do. Everybody wrote them off again as soon as they got rid of Stamkos, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, but they still have such a quality team, and I don't know why everybody was writing them off. They have a strong captain. They have a strong goaltender. They have a lot of three pretty solid lines up front. So I'm not surprised by this at all. They have a fantastic head coach that isn't going to let them slack or get off the tracks for too long.
They've scored 117 goals. Only the Winnipeg Jets have scored more. Only the Jets, out of all the teams in the NHL, Tampa Bay's number 2. They score goals, and one of those guys is Jake Gensel, who has scored in 7 consecutive games. That's a career high for him, and one off the Tampa Bay record. I think the one thing for the Lightning is, if I was their coach, I would say, can we spread these goals out a little, guys? Because they win like 8-1 and 7-0. Like, they score a lot when they score, and I'd like to see a little more even distribution, but you can't. It's not a time thing. You can't score on schedule.
Well, once you start harnessing it as well, guess what happens? Don't ever harness your offense. Mm-hmm. It'll stop.
Yeah, well, it's just Hagel has what the hell? He had 5 assists in a game, right? Tied a franchise record. They're doing some unbelievable things there in Tampa Bay, and hats off for them, because I didn't expect that to happen. By the way, as we look around the NHL with other teams, I think they can thank the New York Rangers for doing an absolute tank job. It has a lot to do with why Tampa Bay's in a playoff spot, and same thing for the Ottawa Senators. And before we talk about those Rangers, the Buffalo Sabres are currently the biggest grease fire in the NHL. They're not officially dead last, but they're going to be fast soon. They've lost 11 in a row. I love this story.
Did you just ding the bell that they lost 11 games?
It's news. News flash. The Buffalo Sabres have lost 11 in a row, and their owner flew into Montreal to have a players-owner meeting. I've never heard of that happening before in any league, at any level, in any sport. What do they decide? We're not going to change a thing. The answers are in this room. Then they went out and lost 6-1 in Montreal.
When I saw the score that Montreal beat them 6-1, I was like blown away. Not blown away Buffalo lost, blown away Montreal got 6 goals. But Montreal is not without offense, I'll say that, but it blows my mind when I see the talent that Buffalo has. Each year after year, I'm like, didn't they lose like 19 games in a row a couple seasons ago, Buffalo? They lost a ton of games in a row. And it's like, how is it not turned around since then? They have the talent. But going back to the conversation about Sam Reinhart, just another dumb trade that they made.
Yeah.
That's why they end up in the situations they do.
They made some really bad ones, although we were discussing that show on my daytime talk show today. The trade was for Devin Levi, who you'll remember was Canada's goalie at the World Juniors, plus a first-round pick in 2022. You wouldn't think that's a bad trade.
And touche. Because, again, Sam Reinhart was not the Sam Reinhart that everyone's seeing here. And Devin Levi, they needed a goaltender in Devin Levi and a first-round pick. So I shouldn't say dumb trade. It's just that the results.
They didn't win it, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, who knew at the time of the Tkachuk-Huberdeau trade? Who really
nobody
knew? Right, how that was going to turn out. And in retrospect, Bill Zito should go to the Hall of Fame for it. So it's a culture thing. You watch Buffalo when they come here if you have the...
Rabbiteers?
No. If you want to go to the game, not to watch it on television.
Like Brent Woltman with his
If you have the
Rabbiteers?
desire and you want to watch a scary movie, go watch the Buffalo Sabres when they come here, or through Tampa Bay. Because here's what I see, and I've called games all told 37 seasons, hockey and football. As soon as something bad happens, they quit. They can't handle adversity. The Sabres. And guys like Tage Thompson, who I love, is 6'7" right winger, right-handed shooting winger from Phoenix. He's scared of his own shadow. What? Can you put the camera on her? What?
Soft.
Yeah.
He's soft. He's soft. He is. It's like when they had Derek Myers, who's also 6'7". He at least got in there.
Tyler
a little
Myers.
bit. Or Tyler Myers. he was a defenseman, is a defenseman, obviously. He got in there a little bit more, and he'll grind. He'll work hard. Guys, Tage Thompson is a great player until he's not. That's part of the problem.
Until he's got to go in the corner.
Yeah.
To you is a Bill Lindsay line. Should be sponsored by Charmin. He's not saying that about Tage Thompson. He has said that about other teams, but Bill Lindsay's lines off the radio are 100 times better than what are on. And he's good on the radio. You know what I mean? You know exactly what I mean. Moving on. Circling back to our discussion from last week about the outdoor game episode, there was a surprising amount of support for Sarina. Because I'm excited about the outdoor game. The viewers all noticed that I'm excited. The Panthers fans are excited. But there were a lot of people, your minions, like John Sinclair and some of your cronies, that agreed with you because they think there are too many games. I don't necessarily think there are too many games. Look at the college football playoff goes from 4 teams to 12 teams. The NFL's adding wildcard teams. Major League Baseball's adding more. Everybody's doing more. But they agreed with you, so I'll give you that. Some agreed with you.
There are almost 100 teams in the National Hockey League right now. So all you're doing is you're cutting out half the league's ability to play in the playoffs. So they're trying to make up for it by having shit like this. That has nothing to do with whether or not the Panthers are going to be in the playoffs, but they're trying to. Every little market, Gary Bettman puts his heart and soul into every market. Like I've told you guys a million times. It was Anaheim and LA. And then when they won Stanley Cups, he moved on. Now it's Florida. Let's give them an outdoor game. First of all, it's not even going to be an outdoor game. Can we stop calling it that? It'll be an off-site game, whatever. But again, it's like, come on, guys. Do you know how much work that's going to take? And like, what are they getting out of it?
Well, that to me is what's exciting. It's the novelty of it. We don't know. And it is a retractable roof. So interestingly, since Elliot Friedman dropped that little news tidbit, the NHL insider from Sportsnet, there's been no talk of it that I've seen. Nobody's addressed it. The Panthers haven't addressed it that I've seen. If they have, I wasn't invited to the news conference. But my guess is they'll put the ice in with the roof closed, and depending on the weather that day, if the ice can stand it, they'll open the roof. So then it will be an outdoor game. If the conditions are right, that would be my guess.
I mean, sure. Realistically, I mean, I guess if this is going to happen here, most of the games are afternoon games, which would be silly here. I feel like a night game, it would have to be a night game. If that there's a reason Hard Rock Stadium is built with the seats in the shade. So they're in the shade, a lot of them, and then it doesn't get rained on. It's just, that's a football stadium. It's just not a climate to have it.
Yeah, well, this is, if he's going to be in the baseball stadium, but I think it's exciting. Now, again, I've been to an outdoor game. When Winnipeg played Calgary, we talked about that here last week, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. My seats were way better than I thought they would be. Like here, it would be like 128 in Hard Rock Stadium. Now, this is a baseball stadium's different, so it's more of a slope. It might be a disaster. I don't know. I just want to go and find out and see what it's like. And I swear, there'll be a lot of people at that game that have never been to a hockey game before. They might hate it. They may love it. Who knows? I never thought there would be a game, and a lot of the Panthers fans didn't think there would be either. Our buddy Thad from the Beach House said he went to a game in Washington, and it was terrible.
That was the worst experience of my life. It was freezing cold. He's like, we were three rows back off. He goes, you couldn't see anything. He's like, I will never do that again. I'm like, well, now Thad's a Floridian. He doesn't want to sit in the cold either. But I'm like,
none of us do.
Here we are. Just wait till the environmentalists get a hold of this. We have to use paper straws and can't use plastic bags, but we're going to air condition an outdoor baseball stadium so we can put some fucking ice in there so a hockey team can play?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Come on, man.
It's a great idea. What can I say? I didn't want to go to that outdoor game when I went. It was the Heritage Classic in Saskatchewan between the Jets and Flames. I didn't want to go. But a buddy of mine worked for the Jets, and he goes, you got to go, man. It's not about the game. It's an event. Just go. He got me tickets. I'm like, damn. He's right. I've been to Super Bowls, Grey Cups, which is Canada's Super Bowl. I've been to everything. And it was like that. It's an event. He was
Sure.
right.
Okay, absolutely. Here's the thing, though. Last year, a friend of mine who works for the NHL messaged me and she goes, I've got 2 tickets to the game in Edmonton outside, like the outdoor game against Calgary. And I was like, if I was there, I would have braved the cold and I would have went because it is an event. However, we consider that an event because we grew up in that climate. We remember strapping on our skates in the freezing cold, going out there and playing until you couldn't feel your fingers and your toes. And it's like nostalgic for us because we were out of our minds. We just wanted to play and skate for hours. So, and that's how the players feel. They're playing out in the cold and it's like reminds them of when they were kids because that's all we do up there is play on the dugouts and in the streets. There's a video from Wolseley where kids were playing hockey in the street because it rained and it froze and whatever. We just lived for that. We lived for that. It's different. Nobody grows up in Florida dying to play in the winter outside.
We'll see, because they haven't officially announced anything yet. But to use a term of Western Canada, the horse is kind of out of the barn. So you can't put the horse back in. Okay.
Yeah, why is that? Because you can. They'll go.
A couple quick things is, it's a horse out of the trailer. But, might as well stay on this Panthers lightning vein. I don't know if we'll get to the other NHL topics, but I guess I was reading Florida Hockey Now, as written by our good friend George Richards, and he said the Panthers were just through Western Canada, and all of the Canadian networks on television were talking about Sam Bennett being a trade target because his contract is expiring with the Florida Panthers. I have not paid attention to the fake news, and you hate it, the trade speculation as to what's the top list of guys available. At least I think you do. I can't imagine that Sam Bennett will be traded at all, and I will say this is what little things that the national media doesn't know. The night the Panthers got their Stanley Cup rings from Vincent Viola, the ceremony the night before the season opener, when he handed his ring, Sam Bennett his ring, Vincent Viola, the owner, said, "You are the soul of this team. Thank you. Here you go." Does that sound like a guy that you would trade? That sounds like a guy that you would do anything you could do to not let him get away.
You got to look at it like this, though. They can't all stay here forever. It's a business. I've said that a million times. Is a guy like Barkov in a position to get traded? No, he's not. But like you just said, Sam Bennett is coming at the end of his contract where he is in a trade position. And Florida's going to go, okay, do we want to keep this guy based on the way he's playing right now? Me personally, I would probably keep him, but it all comes down to money. It all comes down to what's Bennett's agent asking for. Right? It's if they can't fit it in the budget, they ain't going to fit it in the budget. A guy like Sam Bennett, we use the term, is he on the bubble? I don't know if he's on the bubble right now, but what they're saying is not the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. It wouldn't surprise me if they traded him.
They look at any player on an expiring contract and think he will be available. That's just the way that it goes. And by the way, I don't know Vincent Viola. I hope at some point I get to meet him. I can't imagine he got to where he is financially by being the nicest guy. If it's a business decision, he'll allow Bill Zito to do whatever he thinks is best for the hockey team.
Sure. I mean, yes, he probably meant every word of that. But again, this is a business. You're the heart and soul. You just won the Stanley Cup. Starting tomorrow, new season.
It's a new season.
It's true.
Thanks.
And that's not to be heartless. It's just that's the way it goes.
And by the way, Maddie did write in with quite a few questions, multiple questions. And one, since we're on the topic, she's like, will the Panthers look for some defensemen? And I don't know why that's a narrative out there. People seem to think, whether it's Panthers fans or NHL wide, they need defensemen. Because why? They were unable to hold on to Brandon Montour or Oliver Ekman-Larsson or the very good defenseman on last year's team. This defense, as far as I'm concerned, is good enough. It doesn't really matter what we think either, by the way. But Bill Zito, we have said this on the show before, but I'll say it again. 2 years ago, the Panthers made no trades. I think they were the only team that didn't. No moves, and went all the way to the Stanley Cup final. Last year, they were one of the most active teams. Totally opposite. And they went on to the Stanley Cup final and won it. What's my point? Bill Zito will judge the temperature in March when the trade deadline happens. And not until then. It'll be up to him and what he sees. I have more thoughts, but what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a really interesting question because I think everybody looks at on paper, what's going on here? How come we don't have the defenseman we did last year? Maybe looks a little weaker on paper. But going back to the start of this episode where we talked about Paul Maurice saying we turned the puck over this many times, he's not talking about his defenseman. The problem is when the forwards start turning the puck over. So yes, you need good defense to win hockey games, but if you need good defensemen, but if your overall defense, including your forwards, is garbage, that's where you have a bigger problem. But I do like that question. Yeah. Because every team could have better defensemen. They're just not out there.
I see it a lot, this talk of, they need defensemen. People have been writing me, and I see, don't write me just because they lost last night and you want to change half the team. I'm not here for that. Maybe on this show, and when I ask for questions, yes, because that's just a hair trigger. Fans upset. We need to get rid of everybody because we lost, and that's not right. That's not how the teams think.
Listen, every fan base does it. Everybody gets upset and whatever. But guys, just remember, you're not hockey people. You're not the general manager of the team, so you're not going to have the answers. The general manager probably doesn't even have the answers right now. That is solely his job. It's not your job. It's not my job. It's not Rod's. Right? So there's a lot of problems. Like, I don't really ever hear people go, God, man, like, what do the Leafs need to do? The Leafs have everything. They're just not doing it.
Their fans do.
No, they know they have all the right players. Yeah. They're not asking what players are missing. They're asking what. So each team has its own issues in that regard.
Which they do have all the players, but they can 100%. Never get their shit together.
The Leafs have a solid hockey team, a solid team.
Yeah, I think we all see that. But come playoff time, they wilt. It is what it is. On the Zito thing, I'll never forget this. It was in that survey by hockey people, NHL executives, who's got the best front office. And the Panthers finished third. Frankly, since they've been to the Cup the last 2 years, I would have probably put them first. But I love that line by some NHL executive that said, they run the team the way we'd all run it if we had a chance. And I think I know exactly what the guy meant. Bill Zito played the game collegiately. He's a blue-collar guy. He doesn't jerk his people around. He signs the players to long-term extensions like Carter Verhaeghe in season. He doesn't care. Paul Maurice, in-season extension. He doesn't care. He wants people to be comfortable and allow them to do their jobs and rewards people for doing their job. Because a lot of GMs and coaches jack people around just for fun, and it's sick. Zito runs the team like a guy that's working for himself. You know what I mean?
I think that's why Dale Talon was so successful. Dale has just the greatest people skills. And sure, he gets angry and whatever, but he never treated anybody. He's still friends with his old stick boy. Like, this is what we're talking about. And, he signed Bobrovsky to that long deal, and everybody here, let's not forget, freaked out until all of a sudden they go to the Stanley Cup final. Okay, maybe it's not so bad. Right? So don't argue with the hockey people. They know what they're doing unless you're in Buffalo. But anyway, I digress. But the thing that came out of Dale's mouth, that guy, his mind is just he's always going to be a general manager. And he said to me when Colorado was here, they got a great team. They just need a goaltender. And look what they did. Turn around and traded.
Got a goalie. I'm not sure he's... Going to be the two goalies, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they're going to be good enough, but they're better than what they had.
Which is a little shocking because I wasn't expecting Georgiev to play like that. But
he's bad.
It's just some. But also, too, on that subject, we've seen a lot of goaltenders in the NHL play so much better for other teams. I've seen Cam Talbot be a completely different goaltender on different. When he was in Edmonton, everybody wanted to kill him. He left. Life got better for him, and all of a sudden he's just like playing on top of his game, and it happens with a lot of goaltenders. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens.
Rapid fire real quick, and we wind this up. Just fun questions. The biggest surprise team in a good way this year, one per conference. Sprung this to you in the car on the way over. I know you put a lot of thought into it. Biggest pleasant surprise in the NHL this year as a team.
Ooh. I don't know if it's a surprise, but Colorado's really playing well. Like, I think Colorado's playing almost as good as they were when they won the Stanley Cup. When I watched them live, I was like, wow, because they got guys like Cale Makar that are 2 years older. He's not a baby anymore. And Nate McKinnon is just, in my opinion, Nate McKinnon is playing the best hockey in the last 2 years that he's ever played. I think he's better now than he was when Colorado won the Stanley Cup. Overall,
Reigning MVP.
he's unbelievable. Good. There's probably a lot of negative surprises, I would say.
I haven't got that. It's my next one.
I'll say
You're
fine,
reading my
Colorado
diary?
this. No.
My biggest surprises are, number one, the Calgary Flames. They're in a playoff spot today, and I had them picked for last place in the Pacific, so what do I know? Which they could still do. And the Washington Capitals are number 3 overall in the NHL, as if that isn't impressive enough. They've done it without Alex Ovechkin. Can't figure that one. Ta-da! It's like magic.
Yeah, that is a surprise. Whatever. Calgary, yeah.
Yep. And the biggest disappointment, you were leaning to that. I've got 2 written down. You can't see them. Who are yours?
I mean, to me, it's pretty obvious it would be Nashville and the Rangers. I would think that there can't be any team that's more disappointing than Nashville just because of the expectations. And the Rangers, I mean, they should have been good. Now Trouba's gone. So I'm just going, you know what? Let me take that back. The LA Kings would probably be one of the most surprising. They
In
just,
a good way.
They're yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to say Nashville and the Rangers.
Real fun rapid fire before we go. And Benny, you got to be part of this too. Get the camera on yourself.
Wait, who's yours?
The Rangers in Nashville.
Okay.
I should have said that because you were looking at my page. Obviously, you're welcome.
Fucking guy.
Best Christmas movie.
The Christmas Story.
Okay, she always watches it Christmas Day. It's her birthday.
Yeah.
As well. You?
Ooh,
Sorry, I should have told you.
I like Claws. It's on Netflix. It's a really good one.
Christmas Vacation, Chevy Chase. Hello.
There's a whole list, though.
Clark
Yeah, there's a
We
bunch
can
of them.
only pick one.
whole list.
Clark
Okay.
Griswold. Best Christmas Carol.
Silent Night. Silver Bells. Just kidding. Depending
Okay.
on who sings it.
Who is the one that sings Burl Ives? Have a holly jolly Christmas.
Rod
That's the
loves
one I
that
love. I
song.
love it so
we will
much.
probably get in the car. Well, he's not with me, but we'll get in the car at some point, Ben, and we'll just turn that on and drive around. Like, we listen to the Christmas carols in the car all the time.
I listen to them. That's all I've been listening
Yeah.
to for the whole month of December.
Yeah, we love it.
Mine. There's so many good ones. I like Michael Bublé. He's got a good voice. So
He does.
Anything by Michael Bublé.
yeah,
you're
he's
saying.
got for Christmas. Yeah, I think that would be good. Yeah.
All right.
I'll take that.
Holly Jolly Christmas, Burl Ives from me.
We saw, just FYI, we were in Nashville and we went to the Grand Ole Opry and we saw the Oak Ridge Boys and the Statler Brothers and everybody at the Grand Ole Opry for the Christmas special.
It was really good. 2 weeks ago.
Unbelievable.
Yes. We'll explain to Ben afterwards who these people are.
What the Grand Ole Opry is.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you, Ben.
Of
To you
course.
and yours. We'll see you
Merry
in
Christmas.
2025 here on the Cats and Bolts podcast.